On today's episode, we have Grace Froese, who is the program manager with the Edmonton Drug Treatment, and you are working for the John Howard Society, correct?
Correct.
Am I saying that right?
Edmonton. Yes, Edmonton John Howard
Okay.
Society.
And I guess today's topic, among other things, is drugs and how it's affecting people, the court system, and what you do in the program you run to sort of help people that should acquire your assistance. And we kind of spoke about this earlier, but I thought since we're on the podcast now, let's start from the beginning. I know you're an Edmontonian.
Yep.
You came highly recommended to the podcast, so I'm so glad you're able to join us. So maybe take us from the beginning, because I know you've been doing this for many, many years.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, yeah, my background is with justice. I worked with Alberta Justice and Solicitor General for well over 20 years of my career, and I worked frontline in the correctional system. I've worked adult jails, I've worked young offender, and then I have worked with special initiatives. I've worked as an addictions counselor, and eventually I moved my career into management, and at one point I just made a decision that it's time for me to move on, and then I ended up in the not-for-profit world with the Edmonton John Howard Society.
When was that?
5 years ago that I
Okay.
started with the John Howard Society, and I
Okay.
left government 6 years ago. And you know, having said that, I had an amazing career in government because I believe it set the stage for what I'm doing now. Just working with the offender population and working with addicts. And as you work in that field, you start to gain an understanding of who these people really are. And oftentimes the public has this perception that, you know, these people are committing crimes, just lock them up and that's the end of it, and that makes everybody feel better. But the reality is it's not changing anything. And I think during my career, that's what I was looking at, is how can we have an impact? How can we actually do something different than we've been doing so far? Yeah. Locking up people isn't making changes. Now,
Sorry to cut you off. When you say what we've been doing so far, you mean just exactly what you mentioned, putting them in jail, hoping that problem goes away, and that's what they deserve, get them out of our sight.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, because that is often the mentality when it comes to jail. And people think, you know, when people are committing crimes, well, okay, they're going to go to jail and that's going to fix this. It's not going to fix it if nothing's changing. So when you, and don't get me wrong, there's crimes that are committed where people need to be in custody for the safety of the public. That, for me, is the purpose of what custody does serve. We're keeping the community safe, and that is the goal. That is the ultimate goal of drug treatment court. That's what we do. We are contributing to society, and we're keeping people safe through what we do. So I see this program as an avenue to keep the community safe long term, not just in the interim. So when someone goes to jail, so I'll go back to who our clients are in the drug treatment court program. These are individuals who are addicted to drugs. They're addicted to heroin, fentanyl, crystal meth, crack, cocaine. That's who they are. And these drugs are consuming their lives. They've taken over their lives. And now the only avenue they have to sustain their addiction is to commit crimes. And so what happens is, of course, they end up in the justice system again, and they're facing lengthy jail sentences as a result of these crimes. So when they come to our program through the court system, they're now being given a different option to sitting in that jail cell. Because I'll tell you what, you can sit in that jail cell for whether it's a year, 2 years, 3 years, if nothing changes for you internally, if nothing changes with the reasons you started into your addiction in the first place, nothing is going to change in the future. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for people who want to make a change and don't have a clue how to make that happen. They don't know how to actually get started, how to actually look, how do I get sober? How do I clean up? And how do I rebuild my life? So when they come into drug treatment court program, we require them to do that. And our program itself, we orchestrate the services that are existing in the community. We're utilizing every avenue in the community to offer our clients the supports that they need, right from detox to residential treatment, day treatment programs, individual counseling, therapeutic services, psychological services, psychiatric services, all of it. Because at the core of addiction lies something. You don't just, as a young person, decide, you know what, I think I'm going to start using drugs and destroy my life. It doesn't work that way. There's something that led you there. So we require our clients to start looking at that. And that's hard work. That's hard work. Sometimes people leave. Sometimes they say, I can't do this. I'd rather do jail time than look at the tough stuff, because 99% of the time it is really tough stuff that they have to face.
And maybe some of them are repeats, where they've been to jail, they kind of know the system, and sometimes they're more comfortable being in jail than to do your program.
Totally.
Before we get too deep into the program and the things that you offer, I wanted to ask you, so just take me back for a second. So somebody gets themselves in trouble, they're addicted to drugs, they're facing 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and they're about to get handed a sentence by a judge. So you're dealing directly with the court system, you're working with lawyers as well, judges, and basically you offer them a program where instead of a judge being up there sentencing them to 3 years, you offer a program where when they enter it, they have another option. Instead of just being thrown in jail, you can try and help them using different avenues. I mean, to those that do actually want your help, because some you said, don't prefer that.
Yeah, that's accurate. So they're looking at a sentence, and the judge will accept their guilty pleas when they're facing these charges, and then the judge will say, but we're going to delay your sentence. And so instead of you going to jail for 3 years, we're going to send you to this program. And you're going to be on a bail order where you now are required to report to this program and follow all direction while you're in this program.
How long is your program, Grace?
Well, it's a minimum of a year.
So they can delay sentencing up to 1 year?
More than that. Oh, wow. Our clients, we have...
Depends on how they're doing.
That's right. Program. So a minimum of a year. And this is not where I'm just going to bide my time for a year and follow direction for a year and then I'm going to graduate. It doesn't work that way. They have to be actively engaged. And by actively engaged, I mean participating in treatment, participating in their counseling, really working on the issues. And we know we're not new, in the line of work that we're in. We know when they're actively engaging or not.
And it's not just you have a large staff.
No, we have a team. I have a team that I work with, and I'm very fortunate because I have some very skilled and educated people who understand this field and know what they're doing. Our clients are also supervised. I have a seconded probation officer from Justice who is on site, and this probation officer supervises their recog orders. Every week, our team goes to court. Our clients are in court every week. Every Wednesday afternoon at 2:00, there they are, and they have to report to the judge on their progress during the week. Then our program...
So part of the program is that they show up to court every week.
Exactly.
Seeing bad time, seeing bad time.
And they have to report to the judge on what they did this past week. What did I do? What kind of programs did I take?
What are some of the things that they report back to the judge?
So they'll talk about, an example, they'll take Empower You, financial literacy. This is a program that teaches them how to manage their money, how to manage their finances.
I think everybody needs that.
Yeah, I say, hey, I would love to take some of the programs that our clients are taking. They will take parenting courses. So if you have children and you're a parent, teaching you how to be a healthy parent. They'll do relationships programs, healthy relationships. How do I communicate in the world? They do, of course, residential treatment. They will do day treatment programs. They see a psychologist on an ongoing basis. We also have a psychiatrist that is linked to our program who works with them. So they will report to the judge a lot of times, I'm really struggling because, say, if I have women who have lost custody of their children. And
you've dealt with young and old, male, female.
Every age group. We deal with adult males and females over the age of 18. I have clients starting from age 19 to age 62 right now. Every age range, they come from every walk of life. And this is something that I think is important for people to understand. This is not just your street drug addict who's laying on the side of the sidewalk. We have those individuals also. This can be a community member in your community. These are business people, totally, who have their drugs have taken over their world, and now they're losing everything, and they're facing jail time. So we have a real diversity. We have mothers with children who have had their children apprehended. We have fathers who haven't seen their children due to their addiction. So the whole idea of drug treatment court is it's a very holistic approach. We're looking at every avenue of their life. This isn't just about the addiction. This is about, let's get to the core of the addiction, and then let's look at helping you rebuild your life. So if it involves wanting to get your children back in your life, we'll work with children's services. We work with family services. We work with every community agency and organization that could be involved in this person's life. And they take anger management courses. They take one of the programs that has been just life-changing for our clients is Parents Empowering Parents. It's based out of Sherwood Park. They have a MedX program as a component. And what happens is our clients are involved in that. And this is for ex-drug dealers, right? So now our clients have to sit with the parents of children who are addicted to drugs, and they have to face the reality of how this has impacted these parents and how it's impacted their families.
You probably see a lot of emotional reaction to a lot of this, right?
All the time. There is a lot of emotion around this, because here's what we're asking individuals to do. We're asking them to face their reality, and that's very hard to do. When your reality involves a lot of trauma behind your addiction, we're basically saying, you know what, we're going to help you get cleaned up from drugs, and now you're going to take a look at why you started in the first place. So they have to open that up, and let me tell you, that's opening up a lot of wounds for people. And now we give them the supports and the services they need to work through that trauma.
Psychiatrists.
Yes, psychologists. We have amazing psychologists on our team that work through this with people and offer the services. So they just do so many different programs that I couldn't even list them all here. But like the treatment centers, and we work on who the people are. We have people from every culture, every walk of life. So we'll have Poundmakers Lodge Treatment Center. We have Bonnieville Rehab. We have Thorpe Recovery Center. We have Recovery Acres. There's so many different residential treatment programs, and we try to tailor it to our client.
So just so people understand, this isn't anybody coming off the street with a drug addiction looking to get some help. You have to be captured in facing, a jail sentence, facing some real trouble, where you step in using the court system, working with the court system.
That's right.
You offer these programs.
Yep.
So if there's somebody listening and they are addicted to drugs, this is not for you. This is for somebody facing some. I mean, it's unfortunate, because I bet you there is a lot of, whether it's drug dealers, drug users, that would like to enter a program like this. That is not what you do.
No, and
you're basically picking them up from the hands of the court system.
Totally.
That's about to throw them in a cell.
Yes, and you know what's interesting about what you say is I get phone calls from people who have not been in trouble with the law. And
we'll put your phone number on the screen.
Yeah. It's already out there.
Yeah.
And people will call and say, you know what, my son is addicted to drugs, and I've heard about your program. How can I get him in? And I say, I'm sorry, but we are limited. We have limited capacity as it is.
How many can you take into your program?
Right now,
like, do you have a list? A waiting list?
Oh, we have a very extensive waiting list. It's ongoing. We have never had enough spots open to fill all the people waiting to get in.
Wow.
We just don't. We have.
What's the average wait time around?
Well, what happens is we try to do ongoing intakes, but people can be waiting up to 6 months, if not longer. And the thing of that is they have legal matters they have to deal with. So most people can't afford to wait very long. They end up dealing with their legal matters and going to jail because the wait can be long. I have. Are
you guys growing enough that you're hoping one day that you can
meet that need?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's the hope here, but that's dependent on money. Of course, it always is dependent on resources. Currently, we're funded by the government for about 10 to 15 clients, and then I have private donations.
How much are you getting from the government?
Well, we get just over $350,000 from federal and provincial government combined right now, and then I have private donations that are up there also. So these are private individuals who care, that are willing to give money.
Awesome.
Isn't that amazing?
That's amazing.
These are people, and they have no vested interest, none whatsoever, other than they're human beings that care. And I'll speak to one specifically just because it's come up, and Elvis and Twyla Aginla, the Aginla law injury firm.
Related to Jerome Aginla, of course.
Yeah, he's their father.
Do they have law office here or in Calgary?
They have a law office in Edmonton and in Leduc.
Oh, okay.
And
because I know there was one here at one point years ago that I knew about, but it's still around.
It's still around. So what has happened is Mr. Aginla and his wife approached me a couple of years ago and said, "Listen, we love the work that this program does, and we want to make an impact." So they have been funding essentially 10 clients per year for the last 3 years.
Wow.
Themselves. That's their contribution.
Good for them.
Yeah, I know. It's amazing. And honestly, these are people who just say, we want to see this work go forward because we know the impact it's having. I have other private individuals who have stepped up and said, "I'd like to help in some way. How can I donate?" We're reliant on that in order to keep our numbers up. If we can get increased funding from the government, which I anticipate we will, hopefully I'd like to double my numbers. I'd like to be able to operate with a minimum of offering services for 40 to 50 clients. This can have a real impact in the criminal justice system. I know when you look at thousands of offenders in custody, people think, 40, 50 people, that's not a whole lot. But here's how this works. It's not just about here and now. It's about the future, and it's about preventing crime. It's about preventing future crimes. So
it's not just dealing with what's going on now, but prevention of what might happen in the future. Because it's like the drug users will tend to hang around more drug users and get people into using drugs because that's their world.
First of all, they're committing multiple crimes daily. The crimes they're caught for is just...
they don't have regular jobs to help their addiction, so they're looking
So they're committing multiple crimes daily to sustain their drug addiction. So even if you get one person off the streets, even if it's only for a year, let's say they only stay clean for a year, how many crimes have not been committed because of that? But here's the other piece that's so important in this. It's looking at what happens in the future. So I have a staff right now who is a past graduate of drug court. I have 2 staff who are past graduates. This one in particular, she graduated, I think it's been 12 years ago from the program, 11 years ago. And when she came into the program, she had children, and one of them was young, just a couple of weeks old. She was a crystal meth addict, and she was dealing drugs to sustain her habit. She was arrested and charged, and she was looking at a lengthy jail sentence. Her children were taken into the care of Children's Services and essentially would have ended up in care. She got into drug court. She did amazing. And after a year in drug court, she was able to get custody of her children. That's been quite a few years ago now. 2 of her daughters are in university. She has this young son who is now coming 13 years old, who's going to school and thriving and doing what a normal 13-year-old should do. That's when I say one person having success in this program is changing the lives of that person's children. It's changing their family. She today now works with our clients. She also works with Alberta Health Services as a peer support
I'd love
worker.
to have her on one day.
Oh, she's an amazing woman.
Awesome.
And one of our other grads, and this part about the job gets me excited. This is where you see real lives who change. I have a staff, Donnie, who graduated 5 years ago. Long-term criminal. He spent his life in addiction. He was a product of the child welfare system. He grew up in it. This is all he knew. And he's an example, speaking of a waiting list, when he was trying to get into the drug court, he couldn't get in. There was no spots open. And his lawyer had come to him and said, "Listen, you may as well plead out. Just do your time, get on with life, because you know how to do that, and let's move forward. You're not going to be getting in for a long time." And Donnie had said, "No, I need to change. This is my only chance. And I don't want to keep doing what I've been doing in the past." He waited. He waited 11 months to get into the program.
Did he wait in jail?
Yeah, he waited in jail. And he was waiting for a spot in the program, and he got it. And he took advantage of that. And he today is working in the recovery field. He is a peer support with our current clients, and just driven to change lives and to have that kind of impact in the world. This is who we work with. This is who our clients are. So many of them graduate successfully and have their families back and rebuild a life. I have a lady who was in her 40s when she came into the program. Her world was falling apart from her addiction. her goal when she came in is, she said, I have grandchildren who are in care. I need to get my grandchildren out. And she was able to graduate and gain custody of her grandchildren, and she continues today to thrive and raise these children. That's prevention right there. These children now have an opportunity for a future because of her. And that's what this program, really at the end of the day, it's about helping people find their worth, and it's about giving them the opportunity to make the changes they need to make. And when they do that, they're not committing crimes. They're no longer having a negative impact in society. They're having a positive impact, and they're giving back. And
amazing. Amazing, Grace. Amazing, Grace. I have a question for you, because we talked about this earlier. There's something called a safe injection site. Now, you know that you can't help everybody. They have to want to enter your program. There are some people, whether it's listening to this podcast, whether it's talking to you, whether it's going to court, talking to judges, talking to Tanvir, whoever, they are going to use drugs.
That's right.
So there's something that you told me, especially because it just opened up in Edmonton, called a safe injection site.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
So users can go to safe injection sites and safely use. So there is sterile paraphernalia. They bring their drugs, they bring their street drugs, and they can safely inject. Many people, and use whatever avenue they choose to do. Many people are against this. Many people are for this. A lot of people have a different stance on this. And here's my stance. I have seen it in action. I haven't been to the Edmonton safe injection site at this point.
Where else do they have it?
I know Vancouver has some. There are a number of them across Canada, but I was able to spend a full day in the Vancouver safe injection site. So I was able to observe the lineups of people waiting in line. This is in the Hastings and Main area in Vancouver. And then I watched how it worked. And so
these are drug users waiting in line.
Street drug users
with their drugs in their hand.
Drugs in tow, waiting to use at this site. So I watched how it worked. And at first I was skeptical. But, so someone goes, they get their paraphernalia, they have like a little booth. It almost looks like a hairdressing stand, right? All lined up, and they go in and they use. But there is staff on site, and there's professional staff on site who go around and just check in with them. How are you doing? And, can I help you with anything? No, I'm good. Okay, off you go. But, every day somebody's asking you, how are you doing today? Is there anything we can do for you? Can we help you? And that one day, it might have taken 200 times, the person says, you know what, I'm tired, I can't keep doing this, I'm going to die, I want help. And
is that connected to your program as well?
No, that's a separate entity.
Where do they take? So I'm a user, I go to these safe site injections, I use whatever drug of choice, and I tell somebody there, a staff member, that, listen, I think I've had it. Like, I can't handle it. My heart can't handle it. My family can't. My mind can't. What do I do from here? Are they instructed to guide you down a certain avenue, a certain path?
Yeah.
How does that work?
The staff that work at these sites are professionals. They're trained to deal with this. And what they'll do then is they'll look at moving them into detox and moving them into residential treatment or whatever treatment they can get them in. So when I say my stance on safe injection sites is if people can be intercepted on any level, whatever that level is, it's a positive, it's a benefit.
You just have a better chance of intercepting them than have them using it in an alley.
They're going to use anyway.
House, in a basement, abandoned home.
Totally, they're going to use anyway. When they're that deeply entrenched in addiction is so powerful. It takes over everything. So they're going to use anyway. From what I've observed, safe injection sites give them a safer place to do it. However, it also gives professionals more of an opportunity to intercept. And that's what you want to do. You want to have that opportunity available. Because at the end of the day, you can offer all these services. But if someone does not want to change, they're very likely they're not going to make the changes, but you want to give that opportunity to the people that do want to change. Same with the people coming into drug treatment court. If they want to change, they're going to take a hold of it. And this is a gift. I mean, getting into this program is a gift, and our graduates will tell you that. Oh my gosh.
There's a lineup.
Oh, totally. There's a lineup to get in, and it makes a difference. So will it reduce the numbers in the jails today? No. Will it reduce them eventually? If there is enough resources to have a bigger impact, it sure will. It sure will. It'll reduce the numbers in the future.
What's the success rate?
So we have it's hard to assess this kind of work. It's hard to keep track, because some people graduate and you never hear from them again, and they get on with life, and you hope they do well. Yeah. Many stay in contact. We have an annual summer barbecue for graduates and clients. We have a Christmas dinner for graduates and clients, and many of them come out of the woodwork, and it's amazing what many of them are doing today. Not all of them succeed. How we can track it is we check to see if they've been involved in the justice system again. And to date, Drug Treatment Court opened in Edmonton near the end of 2005, early 2006. About 70% have not had new criminal convictions. That's huge.
That is huge.
That's huge.
I wasn't expecting the number to be that high.
No, it's about 70%.
And I know it's a ballpark.
Yeah. So about 70% have not had new criminal convictions out of our graduates. That's big. Yeah. That's big. I've even had clients who we've had to terminate from the program because they weren't doing what they were supposed to do. They weren't engaging, and we finally said, sorry, but you're going to have to go back to the court system.
And you terminate them going through the court system again, letting
yes,
them know.
Then we bring their matters back to the courts and say, we can no longer work with this person, and then they have to continue on with their criminal, with the criminal justice system. And do
they have to mess up pretty bad in your program, or are there leniencies? Like, is it a 3-strike rule? How does that work?
They have to mess up pretty bad. Okay.
Like stop showing up.
Yeah, like they stop showing up, or they just will not stop. They will not seek out the resources that were sent their way.
They have to want to help themselves.
They have to want to help themselves. And if we're at a point where we're just going, they're not helping themselves, and there's somebody else could use this spot. Lineup. Who wants this spot? But what's really cool about it is I've had people who we've had to terminate for that reason, and then they have had to go back and do their jail time. And they get out of jail and they come seek us out and say, listen, I still need help. I want to make some changes. So what we have now is an aftercare program so that individuals can still come and access these services.
But they're not directly in trouble again. They just want that extra motivation.
That's right.
Keep the course.
They're not in trouble. And here's why it's such an essential part of the program. Now they're coming because they're realizing I still needed help. When I was in drug court, and this is what this one gentleman came back and he said, I've done my time. And he says, I need to make amends, because when I went back to jail after being in the Drug Treatment Court program, I realized there was something there that I wanted in my life. And he says, I want to make amends. I want to make things right, and I want a better life. And this one I'm thinking of, this happened about 4.5 years ago. He still maintains contact. He's doing really well. So even the impact of the program can change lives. And that's really what we're working for. This is about change. That's what the organization about. That is what Edmonton John Howard Society is about. And that's why our program aligns so beautifully with the values and the mission of giving people the opportunity to change their lives and really believing that they can.
And you've been with the John Howard Society for 5 years, but the program has been going for how long?
13 years.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
I want to ask you that. So because you've been around this not just for the last 5 years, you've seen it for the last, 25 years?
Yeah, 26 years, if not longer.
Yeah, I feel like I just reminded you how long you've been doing this
you
for.
Did. I was like, whoa. Yeah.
So in the time that you've been doing this, what drug, I know we're kind of getting detailed, but what drug do you find most affects people? Actually, a better question would be, obviously in the last 25 years, new drugs have come on the market. People are, you got people eating Tide Pods. Yep. You know what I mean? So how much has that changed? Have you gone from 3-4 essential drugs from 25 years ago to now having, what's the number, Well, and what's the most that comes up that seems to, is it heroin? Is it crack? What is the most that you keep seeing pop up with people?
Well, 20 years ago, we were going through what we'd call the crystal meth crisis. And that's when I was working young offender, and I was working as the addictions counselor in the center, and that's what we were dealing with, crystal meth through and destroying people's lives. That hasn't gone away. As a matter of fact, most recently it has resurged with a vengeance. It really still is very, very dominant. We have also been dealing with the fentanyl crisis, of course, and we've been dealing with that since I've been in the drug court program. When I first started, our clients were addicted to fentanyl. It was on the streets.
What is fentanyl?
It's a synthetic form of heroin. And heroin, we see that from time to time. We see crack. We see cocaine it's always front and center also. But I would say we've gone through phases where it just depends on what's most readily available. What can we access, right?
And sometimes what's cheapest, because once people have a little more money, then they try to up the game a little bit and get a drug that either lasts longer, that's that will last the weekend instead of half an hour.
That's right. Okay. Yeah, and I mean also people seem to be under the impression. Some of our clients have told us they used to be fentanyl users, but they went to meth because they felt like, okay, I don't want to die. All these people are dying of fentanyl. Well, what's happening now is a lot of meth is cut with fentanyl, so it's still.
There's no problem mixing.
There's no way of knowing what's going to be safe. But
and what's so great about you is that you don't seem to be or have been desensitized by it. Like most people, to have a career that lasted 20 plus years in the same field, probably experiencing some of the most horrific things that you have, but also some really uplifting things, some changes people have made. But I commend you that you've been doing this for so long, and the fight obviously in you, I can see it in your eyes, in your body language, that it's still very much probably just as strong as the day you first started. You know
what? It is. It's stronger than the day I first started. I can honestly say that, because as I've have moved forward in my career and moved forward in this line of work, I go, wow, the need is great, and there is so many people struggling. And the more I move forward in life, the more I feel a sense of responsibility to be involved in this field of work, and just to go, how can I have an impact? How can I make a difference? These are human beings. At the end of the day, whatever has happened in their lives, these are human beings who have a right to have the same opportunities I've had in my life.
That's great.
And that is what drives me, but also what keeps you going, because we see a lot of sad cases. We see cases where people die. We see cases where people relapse and people return to this world, and that can get to you. That can play on you. But we also see so much success. We see so many people rebuild their lives, and to me, that I never tire of that. I go, wow,
of course not.
Another person whose life has changed, and it's exciting. That just ignites something in you. And it's a struggle. It's not easy for them. But when I see them overcome that and go, I want a life. I want to do something with my life. I never intended to be an addict. This isn't what I decided I wanted to do. It evolved. This happened in my life. Now I want to make a change. That's exciting. That's where you start to realize the work we're doing is having an impact in the community, but the clients, the results of our work is having an impact in the community, and that's what this comes down to. It really does.
Wow. Well, grace is the phrase. The name suits you, let me tell you that. I wish you nothing but luck in your program, and I hope it keeps growing the way you've been working so hard to make sure it does. Thank you for joining our program. Is there any way people can get a hold of you, those private donors, people that want to inquire a little bit more about it? Is there a website, a number, an email address? Do you have anything like that?
A couple avenues. You can look to the Edmonton John Howard Society website and look under community programs. Edmonton Drug Treatment Court is listed there. You can click on that link. There's a link you can donate. You can contact me directly in my office at 780-993-2441. And that's probably the best routes if you want to donate. Direct contact, or through the website, and just specify this is for Drug Treatment Court. This is an amazing program, and it's changing lives. And I think in this community, and with the fentanyl crisis, all these things going on in the community, we have a solution here. Yeah. And there is an issue.
It might not show itself within a day or two, but in the long run, this does work. It's been proven to work. Is Vancouver showing you any progress since they've been?
You know, in the world of when you ask in the world of addiction, well, what does progress look like?
It's so hard.
It's hard to gauge that,
especially in a bigger city versus a not so big city.
Well, and even something as simple as Alberta Health Services, they have addiction services. Well, they serve thousands and thousands of people every day. How do they gauge? Well, we've served people who, you know, you may be seeing success, but we've offered these services. People are reaching out for these services. It's, in a sense, that's what we're doing. We're offering an opportunity to make a change. It's very hard to gauge because many people, and I get it, when you've been involved in the justice system, if you finally have a way out, some people want to run as far away from us as they can because they want to rebuild their life and they don't want crime or addiction to be associated in their life now. Sure. I get that. I get that.
And some people have no choice.
Yeah, you know, but I think we need to remember that the source of addictions and crime, it's in the community.
Yeah.
But the solutions are in the community also. They're not sitting in a jail. Yeah. The solutions to this are not in a jail cell. The solutions are in the community. And what we do is we utilize the community resources to come to that solution.
Well, thank you for giving them an option. I appreciate it, and thank you for being here. And hopefully we get one of your past clients on to tell their story.
I'm sure they
Sounds
would.
so interesting.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thanks, Grace. I
Thank you
appreciate
very
it.
much.
Bye, sweetheart.
Thanks. Bye.